Okay, welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. You got everything taken care of there, Suzanne?
I was looking for my favorite tree book, but I
Oh,
couldn't find it.
what is your favorite tree book?
It's the book that turned me on to all of this, which is, I mean, it's not very exciting, but it's Michael Durr's,
Ah,
the Manual of Woody and
yep,
Ornamental Plants, right?
I,
And it was my first class in horticulture that just turned me on to trees.
I have a beat up copy of that book around here
I've got a
someplace.
copy. Yeah, in the other
It's
room.
the
Well,
best.
I was going to go with the other one, but let's start there since we're talking. Every tree needs a champion, and trees in Chicago.
Good segue.
You got
Yeah.
some, yeah. Why not the
Scott
tree?
Jameson.
Yeah,
Scott Jameson with Bartlett. Talk about champion.
uh,
Eric Grossnickel, Bartlett. Woo-hoo.
I know Skeet's watching this morning.
Yeah, I
From
got to tell
Bartlett.
you, I mean, thank you to them for sponsoring this show. I've worked with them forever. Scott Jameson, along with Larry Hall years ago, helped start Tree Keepers in 1991. 30 years this year.
I remember going to the.
Younger, of course.
I remember going to
Bartlett's
the.
best.
Yeah, they are.
Only the trees have aged.
Yeah, I was going to say I was at the 25th anniversary of Tree. Now we're at 31. Yikes. Okay.
No, we're at 30. We're at
30.
30 this year.
Oh, this is okay. This year 30.
Oh.
And I know you're what are you tree keeper number 1?
I am. I started it in
Yeah.
1991.
Yeah, I'm a tree keeper number 417. So, and there are thousands now. So,
There are thousands, yeah.
which is
Really great.
such a cool thing. And this week, let's look at something positive that happened in the environment in the city of Chicago this week, which is the Finance Committee created a 13-member Urban Forestry Advisory Board.
Yeah.
Now, it's only an advisory board, so it doesn't have a lot of power, but it's still very, very important. Why would you say that is, Suzanne?
Well, it's everything we've just been talking about, education and engagement, right? If you have aldermen and city commissioners working together with experts in the field, we've got open lands in the Morton Arboretum right here, right? Botanic Garden. Arboretum, just did their 2020 census. We've got so much data about trees, about what they do for our environment and our mental health and violence. There's so much research now. And we need people having that conversation regularly. And if you have it with aldermen and city council, hopefully the more they learn, the more they'll advocate for the right practices for trees.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I agree with that.
Oh, I was just going to say, part of the problem that we've had in the past is that there hasn't been this understanding of how important trees are. And with alders, their responsibility part of it has been what trees get cut down. And
Right.
it's not been so much about putting new trees in, planting new trees, but the power to remove trees. And we've had some egregious
Or
examples.
trim them very strangely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. One of the things that they do is they limb them up like crazy, which is not great for a tree. But I understand why they do. They always say it's a safety thing, security.
Broccoli spearing. They're called
Or
broccoli spears.
Yeah.
Or they
Rock-
cut down the tree because the residents think it's going to break their plumbing. That's
Right.
another
Which we
myth.
know.
Oh, yeah. That's right. We talked about that the other day, Sandra.
Yeah.
That whole
The
idea.
roots go for water, so your pipes are already broken, people. But I think it's just important to understand 30 years ago when we started Tree Keepers, we still had the same problem, right? People don't understand that trees are part of our urban infrastructure. Are they as important as a fire hydrant? Maybe not. A street light? Maybe not. But do they make quality of life in our community?
I'm going to disagree
Definitely.
with you totally, Suzanne. Sorry. They are at least as important as those things. I mean, that's the problem.
I'm saying in
And they're
perspective.
living things. They're alive.
Right.
Yeah, but and until we recognize that and understand their infrastructure, okay, it's like trying to get Republicans to understand that infrastructure is more than just roads. Trees are infrastructure in a city.
So before you
Yeah.
guys keep slamming me over that comment, which I can hear Scott Jameson and everybody going, "What are you saying?" I'm saying in the public's perspective, they're not going to say tree versus light or tree versus water or something like that. So it's incumbent upon all of us to demonstrate how important that is in the infrastructure. And if you look at Emerald Ash Borer and communities that have lost everything,
Yes.
from their energy costs to their quality of life. I mean, it's significant.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Suzanne. Trees shade homes, reduces the need to run their air conditioning, but we don't make those connections with folks.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
really important to talk about that. There is an energy benefit. And in addition, I hope we're going to talk about the decarbonization of buildings later on.
Oh, yeah.
But in the scheme of things, like the big picture, we have to, if we're going to be successful or at adapting to climate change and potentially mitigating it, we have to decarbonize our buildings. And we also have to plant lots of green stuff, including trees, if we're going to really be successful at this. And it's going to take
it
all of
ties-
those pieces.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well,
Sorry, excuse me. I was going to say, and that ties into the other thing we were talking in this half hour, the social justice and equity issues.
But
where are those trees being
yes.
planted?
I think, yeah, exactly. Where those trees. But so while you've mentioned the decarbonization working group, the building decarbonization working group, tell us a little bit about that, Sandra. How did that come about? And you're part of that group.
I am. It's pretty exciting.
Right?
I'm facilitating the new construction subgroup of the working group. But we've got this ordinance in place to become 100% renewable energy by 2035. Well, how do we do that? First of all, we have to decarbonize our buildings, and that means we need to not use carbon-producing fuels inside our homes and our multifamily buildings. So there's a number of levers we have to press to get to that. One of them is to work with the city to figure out what that strategy looks like. Is it an ordinance? Is it a code change? We could do a zero code there. And so we've convened a group of folks, architects, engineers, community members, community organizations, to have that discussion. And there's 3 groups. One is looking at new construction, one is looking at existing construction, and the other is looking at training and financing options. There's 3 subgroups in there, and I'm running the new construction group, or facilitating it rather. So the outcome would be, at the end of this working group process, is we present a list of recommendations to the city for how we can implement a decarbonization strategy that will get us to 100% clean energy by 2035. That's the outcome.
And the success of that outcome will be if the city listens and internalizes it and implements it and institutionalizes it.
Yes.
Because you're going to come up with amazing recommendations, and then the cojones will have to come out. Not the rabbits. And then it's how do you implement it? Because it can be done. And create jobs. And improve quality.
And create jobs.
I mean, as we know, there's major, when you look at the energy maps that CNT and I think then Elevate did for years, you can look at where the worst energy waste is happening, south and west sides where homes haven't been rehabbed, where they haven't been made more energy efficient. And that is where communities are paying a much larger proportion of their monthly budget on energy. It is criminal. And so things like this decarbonization program, anything we can do to make our buildings more energy, and then how we produce the energy, and then how we reduce the need for energy, aka trees, as an example. Yeah. All those things coming together, you all of a sudden have solutions. Go figure.
Yes.
It's
amazing.
But
it can be done.
But as Suzanne points out, you can have this committee, decarbonization. You still need the alder people and the mayor.
Political backing.
Yeah, you've got to have that. I mean, it's one thing to sit in Zoom meetings and now maybe even face-to-face meetings. And it's quite another we talked about that in terms of recycling. How do you get the policy implemented? How does that happen?
The cool thing about the city of Chicago is we have this amazing civic network of people that are very passionate about this. So once the recommendations are done, the next step is we as citizens need to start calling our aldermen and telling them how wonderful these recommendations are and encouraging them to support it. I mean, we as citizens of the city have to be involved in that process, because if we're not, you're right, it'll just kind of sit there and languish. But that's kind of the next step on the policy making piece, is we have to be supportive of our CSO and the folks within the city that are supporting this policy, and we need to get on the phone and call our aldermen and tell them how important this is.
Right.
But
And
during that process, I will just say, if you do all this work and then it's incumbent upon community to have to push them, that should be happening in the middle of it and helping hold the city accountable to actually think of this towards implementation. And Angela, they need our support and love.
you're talking about Angela Tovar, who is the new Chief
yes.
Sustainability Officer, right?
Right.
Yes.
There's 2 people now in the team.
Right. Wait a second. We got to give them a ding, because it's not just the cubicle of the environment now. It's 2 cubicles of environment.
Exactly.
Right.
Unless Kira doesn't have an actual desk and she has to pull her chair up to near Angela. It could happen. I don't know. But the bottom
She does
line
have a
is-
desk.
Oh, good. Yay. The 2 desks of environment. So, I think, again, you've got the right team in this decarbonization group. You've got all the knowledge, the economics. Frankly, this is not rocket science. We've known for a very long time what we need to do to reduce carbon. And there's lots of pieces, but again, it's institutional willingness.
And to give some credit to the city, retrofitting has been on the radar for a number of years in the city of Chicago.
Many years.
Yes.
Many years.
On the commercial side, especially the residential side, we need to focus on the residential buildings now, because 70% of our emissions come from carbon emissions come from buildings, and about 40% of that 70% is from residential buildings, and we need to help the buildings be more energy efficient.
I want, before we run out of time here, because I really do want to discuss this a little bit, and that is, as Peggy alluded to it just a few minutes ago, environmental justice in the city of Chicago. As we said, that involves trees. Who gets a tree and who doesn't get a tree, and who gets retrofitted and who doesn't get retrofitted, and who has a new scrap operation put in their neighborhood down the street from a high school, and who does not. And we know who does not.
If you look at Alderman Cisha Lopez's ward, it's the issue, right, of the I can't think of the word now. It begins with C, where it all comes together. If you put a new factory in, cumulative. Thank you. Ding. The cumulative impact.
What was the word?
Yet another cumulative.
Cumulative.
So General Iron, Hilco, the concrete plant, all those kind of things, what's already there that the communities are having to deal with? The matte asphalt plant, right? These kind of things, we need to be looking at this differently. And ordinances and regulations don't typically think about it in that way, right? So it's had to come down to the issue of human beings, environmental justice. Hello, pay attention to what you're doing to communities that are already in such a difficult position as far as the development and industry around them.
Yeah, and what's the incentives to the companies doing that work?
And what's driving them to make the move? Like, what's the zoning? What are the zoning rules that are changing, that are requiring them to move? I'd like to know more about that.
Right. General Iron had constant people complaining from the dust, from the metal, etc. Then you had Lincoln Yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very expensive land. They make a killing off of selling that land, right? So let's go down to where the land's cheaper, where there's already a lot of industry and a lot of vacant land, a ton of brownfields, and why not just dump there? But the whole overall aspect, not just industry, but we can connect that to trees and flooding, et cetera, and climate, is the communities who've had the most disinvestment over decades are still the communities with the least investment in decades. And that includes trees, and it includes flooding and water and all the range of things that can make quality of life so much better. And by the way, maybe there can be some jobs out of it.
Yeah, and why would the zoning rules not protect those communities? I mean, it's a question mark. Like, we have the zoning laws that are changing that because the land is more expensive where General Iron is currently located. But what are the zoning laws that protect the folks that are least able to protect themselves? Why is it
Right.
so easy for them to move to the southeast side of Chicago?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the part
Yeah.
where we need more help.
Yeah.
So my question to you about all this and zoning and so forth is, again, almost always goes back to political will. Why is it that the Lightfoot administration can't seem to just make a decision and say, we need to protect these citizens and let's move forward? I don't understand that.
Well, this is a development issue, right? This is an economic development issue in a lot of regards. And I think it's always been the case that oftentimes the city waits for a big business opportunity to come, and then what can we do to make sure it happens? Because that's investment, right? As opposed to thinking about where do things belong or not belong. And so no matter who comes to you with, hey, I've got millions, but can you give me millions through, I don't remember those terms, but, advance money, et cetera, then what happens is you end up serving the developers instead of the community.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
what we've seen is all the development that's happened, the residential development right up against, the tanneries on the Chicago River. Those all get pushed out over time, but there's never this real discussion about that barrier, that buffer that should always be there, and not encroached upon because it's big development and big dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Suzanne, 100%. And that protection, that discussion needs to happen for all parts of Chicago. Not every part of Chicago should have that discussion about what are we protecting and how do we do that.
Yeah, but it seems to happen, on the south side, the southeast side, and the west side, especially the southeast side. We've talked about this on the show. We've had folks from the Southeast Environmental Task Force and NRDC talk about the issues down there, and they've gone through so much. Losing jobs. When
100,000 in the steel mill industry, 100,000 jobs, and communities remained because they believed in their areas, and they have yet to see a lot of investment that could make those areas, beautiful and productive. And there's a lot of space and a lot of homes that could be re-energized.
Yeah. So and there's some good stuff going on down there too. I said I might talk about the Calumet region. This is something that is near and dear to your heart, Suzanne. And Big Marsh has been a success story down there and continues to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we were gonna. I think one of our questions was, what do we regret? The one thing that if we could have done it while we were there. I'm so proud of all the things the great staff at Department of Environment did, including the Calumet Initiative and partnering with Southeast Environmental Task Force and Field Museum and many others. But we hoped to build the Ford Environmental Center. And it was designed by Jeannie Gang in an international design competition, and it didn't happen. The money needed to be raised, the political will, all those kind of things. But now that money has been put into the environmental center at Big Marsh, and I haven't been there yet, but I've seen photos and it's amazing. So major kudos to the Chicago Park District for taking on all the parcels that had been purchased and are really doing a great job, ecological restoration and engagement, et cetera. I'm so happy that investment continues, but of course, much more needs to be done.
That was your regret. What are you most proud of?
Man, I don't know. I think the team, the staff that worked at the Department of Environment are going on and doing amazing things, from Joyce Coffey and climate resiliency. Grace Rink is now running climate resiliency in Denver. $40 million a year. The voters passed this referendum, and she's doing amazing things. So amazing staff who are off making a huge impact, and some things remaining like Green Core Chicago, which is exciting, but there's so much to be proud of and happy about, and I just hope all work continues.
Yeah. And let's go to you, Sandra. What is it that you're proudest of, and do you have any regrets?
Yeah, I'm most excited and continue to be proud of being able to write the ordinance that put the city on the pathway to moving toward 100% renewable energy by 2035. I'm really excited about that, and I'm glad it was an ordinance and not a resolution, because now the city actually has to do that work, and I'm still excited to be a part of that. So that's awesome. And I think I'm sad that I didn't get a chance to stay in the office longer. I've, in my opinion, it takes about a year before you really get your feet underneath you and understand anything about any new job. And so I regret leaving the office when I did. I would have loved to stay longer.
Yeah, well, that that was a kind of a rude surprise there, but I can understand why you would have wanted to stay a little bit, because you barely got rolling before you had to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt like there was a lot of good stuff. Like Suzanne mentioned, there are still amazing people within the city that want to do awesome things in terms of our sustainability landscape. And I'm excited to continue to work with them. And I'm really excited to be able to support the new CSO, Angela Tovar.
Fantastic.
More on trees next time, Mike. More on trees.
More. We do segments on,
trees.
we do segments on trees all the time.
Climate resiliency and climate adaptation and mitigation. Trees are the
Huge. We have to
You're-
plant green stuff everywhere. Everything should be green.
You're just trying to make up for getting the emails that are going to come at you from your earlier comment, Suzanne.
No, I don't know. No.
Listen, you guys, this has been fantastic, and I apologize to folks who might had some streaming issues here, but again, this is all recorded here, and I can pop it up, and we will have that up online, all of our conversation, and maybe we'll even get to do it again. I certainly hope so. But thank you for taking.
Well, I think we need a field trip to Big Marsh.
Yeah.
Let's do
I'd love to do something down there. So, all right.
Yeah.
Suzanne Malec-McKenna and Sandra Henry, much success to you. Thank you so much for being part of the program. And you guys, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Today's a good day, cool. Humidity is going down. Enjoy it. Yeah.
Mike and Peggy, thank you for keeping this going. Keeping this place where people can talk and learn about stuff together and celebrate the environment. You guys are rock stars. More sponsors for Mike and Peggy.
Yeah. Oh, now that the stream is back, yeah, say that louder. So
No,
that
now that I'm back, I just got kicked off VMix and had the blue screen for a while.
Oh my goodness! And she's back, and it looks like the stream is back. So I'm going to assume that we're good to go. All right, thank you both. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk very, very soon.
Bye.
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. When we return, if we return, Rick DeMille, meteorologist Rick DeMille. We shall return.